Hello, everybody. Does it need to be cleaned a little bit, maybe? A little bit. Nice to see you. I am, as always, your host, Rogan. Welcome back to the reading stream. Why is the light smearing? Do I really need to? That matter? A little bit. I'll just turn this light out. I need lens cleaner or something. Oh, I've got the light flaring right into it too. Also, let me not misspell the name of my PayPal link. That wouldn't exactly be helpful. PayPal.me/Roganautica is the way to support the channel. Throw us some grocery money there. Me and the cats, we need stuff to eat. Also, you can donate through YouTube, the donate button. I have the monetization turned off so that ads will not interrupt live while I read. If you're one of the few so afflicted as to have to put up with the ad breaks, you're welcome. There isn't a large enough audience in here for me to torment you with ads anyway. You guys help a lot more through the PayPal link. Let's see. I'm a little disarrayed. I normally blow my nose before I come on. We are, of course, in the middle of reading, for me, rereading, the classic novel, A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. I think that's how you say her name, Le Guin. It's great. I love this book. Do I have a Discord? We do have a Discord. I don't do. Okay, so there's two Discords. Hold on a minute. Let me. But the one Jelly, Gilgamesh, no, but we must draw the. There's been messages in here. Sorry, I got distracted. Let me invite to server. Let me copy that. Maybe that will work. This Discord that I just sent an invitation to is the main Discord. I don't know how to use Discord, so I just use that like an old school blog. Like I post there. Like when I'm depressed and suicidal, I post about it there. If I listen to music, I post links. Sometimes I give some warning when I'm going to go live, like you find out in there. And the fans hang out. There's another one. There's another Discord that's just the fans that I'm not in. So I don't have to know everything you kids get up to, frankly. Is why. But you can get invited to that one from this one. Yeah, and Jelly and others sort of take care of that stuff. I don't really understand how Discord works. I do want to start using Discord to do watch parties, to watch movies together, and to have more guests call in and hang out live in the stream, in the chat streams. But I haven't got caught up enough to be on top of that yet. I just got the Wi-Fi box hooked back up. The watch parties, yeah, because I've been, if anyone hasn't seen, I posted a video today about all the great silent movies in order. I'd love to have watch parties and watch those movies. Sometimes I can watch whole movies in here, screen commentary in this format, and I was doing that before. Might just be easier to do it in Discord. Like I said, for one thing, the first movie on my list is Dante's Inferno. Has naked people in it, sort of. I don't know if. I mean, that actually annoys me enough that the whole thing seems sideways to me. Like, we're gonna watch all the oldest movies ever made, and we start in 1911, and already nudity is an issue here. It's great. Yes, because naked is art, and it always has been. Sad but true. I don't even know if it's sad. Makes me sad. Welcome back. Where is my copy of Wizard of Earthsea hiding from me? Here it is. Such a slight and slender book. It keeps hiding from me. I found this copy at the book drive book sale thing they do in Lima, Ohio, I guess every year or every now and then. It says EMS for Elida Middle School. The fact that this is a middle school copy shows how this book is marketed now. It gets marketed as young adult fiction. I'm not sure I would call it young adult fiction. I mean, it is in the same way as The Golden Compass or Lord of the Rings or maybe even Alan Garner. But I think Alan Garner actually intentionally wrote for kids. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. This book doesn't feel as if it was intended for children. The young adult marketing category, the way it exists now, writing intentionally for an audience that sort of centers on teenagers, that includes adults and precocious children. The older end of the Harry Potter audience, right? The Hunger Games audience. That didn't used to really exist. In the 1950s and 1960s, there was fiction written sort of leaning into what would become YA fiction marketing as a category, but there wasn't a lot of it. When I was a kid coming up, we had a lot more shared culture, because if you were between the age of 10 and 14 and you were into science fiction and fantasy, you'd read a lot more of the same books as everyone else, because there was a lot narrower a field for reading. And this book was on that list. It's I'm glad I can do my part for bringing it back onto people's radar. It is a spectacular novel, written in 1968, A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin, the first of multiple novels and a goodly number of short stories set in this world and landscape. I think what I'm reading here now, I was going to try to finish reading the chapter 4, The Loosing of the Shadow, last night, but it got long, got away from me a little. So I like to think that where we're going here tonight is, this chapter, and then chapter 5 is The Dragon of Pendor. I think that's where I'm reading to. Again, I have the monetization turned off while we do this live. So if you guys can afford to contribute to the cause, please and thank you. Because I'm going to read about a dragon. I gotta. Thanks for being here, guys. This part's really fun. I'm glad the audience seems to be growing for doing this, because I like it. I'd do it anyway. I'd probably do it anyway, even if you guys weren't here. I mean, I guess you guys aren't here. There's only 3 people here right now, but you know what I mean. 3 people is enough. 3 people is enough. Well, for many years, the only audience I needed to read out loud was either Red or my ex-wife or a series of girlfriends before her who put up with and sometimes even encouraged and sometimes even appreciated my obsessive reading of classic fantasy and horror fiction. A Wizard of Earthsea. Where was I? Right. Right. Gad, in the last part of the first part of this chapter, has somewhat accidentally, through hubris, pride, and envy, been led astray into uh, doing something magical that unlooses a dark spirit in the world that is targeting him. And he's been given to understand that he's only safe because he's still on the island of mages, where the shadow monster that has been unleashed can't get at him because of magical protections. And been told that the only thing he can really do to make up for the damage he's done is to continue to study, to become a greater wizard, to protect himself from the thing that will surely possess and destroy him if it can. So Genscher ended and was suddenly gone, as is the way of mages. The fountain leaped in the sunlight, and Ged watched it a while and listened to its voice, thinking of Nemmerly. Once in that court he had felt himself to be a word spoken by the sunlight. Now the darkness also had spoken, a word that could not be unsaid. He left the court, going to his old room in the south tower, which they had kept empty for him. He stayed there alone. When the gong called to supper, he went, but he would hardly speak to the other lads at the long table or raise his face to them, even those who greeted him most gently. So after a day or two, they all left him alone. To be alone was his desire, for he feared the evil he might do or say unwittingly. Neither Vetch nor Jasper was there, and he did not ask about them. The boys he had led and lorded over were all ahead of him now, because of the months he had lost, and that spring and summer he studied with lads younger than himself. Nor did he shine among them, for the words of any spell, even the simplest illusion charm, came halting from his tongue, and his hands faltered at their craft. In autumn, he was to go once again to the Isolate Tower to study with the Master Namer. This task which he had once dreaded now pleased him, for silence was what he sought, and long learning where no spells were wrought, and where that power which he knew was still in him would never be called upon to act. The night before he left for the tower, a visitor came to his room, one wearing a brown traveling cloak and carrying a staff of oak shod with iron. Ged stood up at sight of the wizard's staff. Sparrowhawk. At the sound of the voice, Ged raised his eyes. It was Vetch standing there, solid and foursquare as ever, his black, blunt face older, but his smile unchanged. On his shoulder crouched a little beast, brindle-furred and bright-eyed. He stayed with me while you were sick, and now I'm sorry to part with him. And sorrier to part with you, Sparrowhawk. But I'm going home. Here, Hoeg, go to your true master. Vetch patted the otak and set it down on the floor. It went and sat on Ged's pallet and began to wash its fur with a dry brown tongue like a little leaf. Vetch laughed, but Ged could not smile. He bent down to hide his face, stroking the otak. I thought you wouldn't come to me, Vetch, he said. He did not mean any reproach, but Vetch answered, I couldn't come to you. The Master Herbal forbade me, and since winter I've been with the Master in the grove, locked up myself. I was not free until I earned my staff. Listen, when you too are free, come to the East Reach. I will be waiting for you. There's good cheer in the little towns there, and wizards are well received. Free, Ged muttered and shrugged a little, trying to smile. Vetch looked at him, not quite as he had used to look, with no less love but more wizardry, perhaps. He said gently, You won't stay bound on Roke forever. Well, I have thought, perhaps I may come to work with the Master in the tower, to be one of those who seek among the books and the stars for lost names, and so do no more harm, if not much good. Maybe, said Vetch. I am no seer, but I see before you, not rooms and books, but far seas, and the fire of dragons, and the towers of cities, and all such things a hawk sees when he flies far and high. And behind me, what do you see behind me? Ged asked, and stood up as he spoke so that the weir light that burned overhead between them sent his shadow back against the wall and floor. Then he turned his face aside and said, stammering, But tell me where you will go, what you will do. I will go home to see my brothers and the sister you have heard me speak of. I left her a little child, and soon she'll be having her naming. It's strange to think of. And so I'll find me a job of wizardry somewhere among the little isles. Oh, I would stay and talk with you, but I can't. My ship goes out tonight, and the tide has turned already. Sparrowhawk, if ever your way lies east, come to me. And if ever you need me, send for me. Call on me by my name, Estarial. Here's digging in that box. I love you, Zoe. Estarial. At that Gad lifted his scarred face, meeting his friend's eyes. Estarial, he said, my name is Gad. Both front paws now. Then quietly they bade each other farewell, and Vetch turned and went down the stone hallway and left Roke. Ged stood still a while, like one who has received great news and must enlarge his spirit to receive it. It was a great gift that Vetch had given him, the knowledge of his true name. All right, I'm not going to tell Zoe to stop, but I'm not going to, I'm just going to wait a minute. I feel like I'm trying to play quietly in the back corner of a coffee shop where there's a steam thing for the espresso that just makes a big ruckus every time they make a fancy coffee and ruins a song every time. Poor Zoe, I've snapped at her so much. You guys saw earlier, she seemed very harsh in the other stream. She seemed very sad. Are we good, Zoe? You know what? I'm gonna just have a little smoke break. I'm gonna have a little smoke break. I got a pipe full of tobacco over here. I'm almost out of tobacco. This is as good an occasion as any to invite you to support me and the cats. We need grocery money. We're that broke. I'm down to like $5. Dave wanted me to buy him butter and make a cake with. I didn't have enough. You guys are already buying my groceries right now. Thank you. PayPal.me/Roganautica is the way to get money directly to us. I really don't want to snap at her again. I lectured her in a stern tone earlier, kind of joking. You guys saw. She got real sad. Poor Zoe, really, she would not survive in the wild. She is dumb with a capital M. And a capital U and a capital D. Cats are sensitive beings. Yeah, Leninade, it's a question of personality. Cats are definitely they sometimes are sensitive the way people are. It really bugs me, actually. Yeah, Zoe is. I have to be careful around her, and she responds quietly. So if I hurt her feelings, I just noticed later that she's sitting in a corner looking worried. Hey Gandalf, how are you? I hadn't seen you in a while. Back for the Wizard of Earthsea reading. I bet you've read this book. I bet like me, you read it 30 years ago and you hadn't read it since. It's really, really good. A Wizard of Earthsea. Yes, that's what I'm reading. I was reading horror short stories, but I've only got 6 or 7 more nights of classic Gothic horror stuff without prepping more short stories, and I don't have a way to get books mailed to me yet. I'm still broke. I'm still coasting on fumes. So Ursula Le Guin, yes, that's how you say her name, Le Guin. She may still be alive. I know she lived to the wrong side of the 90s, Like I saw her on Facebook talking animatedly about something, and she was like 91 or 92, and was like she she didn't look a day over 70. Like she looked great for her age. So um yeah, and it's very much I hadn't realized before I picked it up again to read for this. I picked up a copy a couple of years ago to look at for writing a screenplay from it when I had a chance, when it was sitting in the dollar pile at a book sale. Um and um you got a book gifted to you yesterday about the Nazis. Um I hadn't realized it was written in 1968 originally until I started reading it for this and looked at the date. That Le Guin definitely read Lord of the Rings. She was probably a fan before, but when Lord of the Rings was reprinted in paperback in the mid 60s, her response was like, oh, okay, if that's commercially viable, then I can do this. I'm going to get back to it. Uh, Leninade, I have been reading horror short stories. I wanted to read a novel for several days so I could stop scrambling to find short stories. I just wanted to take a break from the reading, the prep reading. But I definitely need to get access to a bookstore. I like it. Classic horror is kind of the main thing I'm going to be reading in here, I think. I don't know, horror and fantasy and little science fiction going back and forth. It was a great gift that Vetch had given him, the knowledge of his true name. No one knows a man's true name but himself and his namer. He may choose at length to tell it to his brother or his wife or his friend, yet even those few will never use it where any third person may hear it. In front of other people, they will, like other people, call him by his use name, his nickname, such a name as Sparrowhawk and Vetch and Ogion, which means fir cone. If plain men hide their true name from all but a few they love and trust utterly, so much more must wizardly men, being more dangerous and more endangered. Who knows a man's name holds that man's life in his keeping. Thus to Ged, who had lost faith in himself, Vetch had given that gift only a friend can give, the proof of unshakable trust. Ged sat down on his pallet and let the globe of weir light die, giving off as it faded a faint whiff of marsh gas. He petted the otak, which stretched comfortably and went to sleep on his knee as if it had never slept anywhere else. The great house was silent. It came to Ged's mind that this was the eve of his own passage, the day on which Ogion had given him his name. 4 years were gone since then. He remembered the coldness of the mountain spring through which he had walked naked and unnamed. He fell to thinking of other bright pools in the river Ar, where he had used to swim, and of 10 Alders village under the great slanting forests of the mountain, of the shadows of morning across the dusty village street, the fire leaping under bellows blast in the smith's smelting pit on a winter afternoon, the witch's dark fragrant hut where the air was heavy with smoke and wreathing spells. He had not thought of these things for a long time. Now they came back to him. On this night he was 17 years old. All the years and places of his brief, broken life came within mind's reach and made a whole again. He knew once more, at last, after this long, bitter, wasted time, who he was and where he was. But where he must go in the years to come, that he could not see, and he feared to see it. Next morning he set out across the island, the otak riding on his shoulder as it had used to. This time it took him 3 days, not 2, to walk to the isolate tower, and he was bone weary when he came in sight of the tower above the spitting, hissing seas of the northern cape. Inside, it was dark as he remembered, and cold as he remembered, and Karem Karmarak sat on his high seat writing down lists of names. He glanced at Ged and said without welcome, as if Ged had never been away, "Go to bed. Tired is stupid. Tomorrow you may open the book of the undertakings of the makers, learning the names therein." At winter's end he returned to the great house. He was made sorcerer then, and the Archmage Densher accepted at that time his fealty. Thenceforth he studied the high arts and enchantments, passing beyond arts of illusion to the works of real magery, learning what he must know to earn his wizard's staff. The trouble he had had in speaking spells wore off over the months, and skill returned into his hands. Yet he was never so quick to learn as he had been, having learned a long, hard lesson from fear. Yet no ill portents or encounters followed on his working, even of the great spells of making and shaping, which are most perilous. He came to wonder at times if the shadow he had loosed might have grown weak, or fled somehow out of the world, for it came no more into his dreams. But in his heart he knew such hope was folly. From the masters and from ancient lore books, Ged learned what he could about such beings as this shadow he had loosed. Little was there to learn. No such creature was described or spoken of directly. There were at best hints here and there in the old books of things that might be like the shadow beast. It was not a ghost of human man, nor was it a creature of the old powers of earth, and yet it seemed it might have some link with these. In the matter of the dragons, which Ged read very closely, there was a tale of an ancient dragon lord who had come under the sway of one of the old powers, a speaking stone that lay in a far northern land. At the stone's command, said the book, he did speak to raise up a dead spirit out of the realm of the dead. But his wizardry being bent awry by the stone's will, there came with the dead spirit also a thing not summoned, which did devour him out from within, and in his shape walked, destroying men. But the book did not say what the thing was, nor did it tell the end of the tale, and the masters did not know where such a shadow might come from. From unlife, the Archmage had said. From the wrong side of the world, said the Master Changer, and the Master Summoner said, I do not know. The summoner had often come to sit with Ged in his illness. He was grim and grave as ever, but Ged knew now his compassion and loved him well. I do not know. I know of the thing only this, that only a great power could have summoned up such a thing, and perhaps only one power, only one voice, your voice. But what in turn that means, I do not know. You will find out. You must find out, or die, and worse than die. He spoke softly, and his eyes were somber as he looked at Ged. You thought as a boy that a mage is one who can do anything. Hey!
Can you help me bring in the groceries real quick?
Sure, yeah.
Oh, you're reading?
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. You can just hang for a minute. Yeah. Listen, I whack it. Where's your sister? Where's Zoe? Is she hiding? Did she get out past me? Hold on, guys. Was Earthsea a series? Let me make sure Zoe is in here for one thing. Here's the treat. There's Zoe. Oh, how are you hiding? That was really swoof. All right. Okay, so I don't know what day for I only have about 5 treats left, but the bag will bring both cats, so that's what it's for. Sorry, I had to take a minute out there. It was a little bit of a systems test though, because at least once the stream, I was doing commentary in commentary, like screen in screen, and playing a video, and I left the room to take a phone call, like in the hall. And the bots caught that there was like nothing going on in the corner where I was supposed to be, which is interesting. But if I just live stream an empty room, I don't know. The cats were in here. I don't know how empty that is. I don't know. Yeah, I'm glad it's not. It's been cold here, Gandalf, but not like really. The lowest it's been is like 20. Earthsea, the Earthsea stories are not typical of Le Guin. She doesn't normally do this kind of heroic epic fantasy. I think everything she's done like this is in her Earthsea series, and there is a trilogy in which Sparrowhawk the Wizard, Ged the Wizard, is a recurrent character. They're really 3 standalone stories. Third one is a sequel to this, in that it's like Mark Hamill coming back as the wise old Jedi in the third trilogy. Like he comes back at the end of the third book. I don't remember it very well though. The second and third books were over my head when I was a kid and read them. And then when I came back to them as an adult, I only read the first one again. She did later publish a collection of short stories and short novels called Tales from Earthsea. I think that's what it was called. And a couple of those stories are really good. I didn't read the whole collection. But there's a lot of really involved world building going on here. Like it's very Tolkien-esque, very George R.R. Martin-esque in that sense. She's really worked it out in the details. Being quiet on the off chance that he's yelling at me and I'm supposed to hear it. But I don't think so. Hope not. All right. Where was I? It's hard to tell if he's all right. Right. The master summoner spoke softly, and his eyes were somber as he looked at Ged. You thought as a boy that a mage is one who can do anything. So I thought once. So did we all. And the truth is that as a man's real power grows and his knowledge widens, ever the way he can follow grows narrower, until at last he chooses nothing, but does only and wholly what he must do. The Archmage sent Ged after his 18th birthday to work with the Master Patterner. What is learned in the imminent grove is not much talked about elsewhere. It is said that no spells are worked there, and yet the place itself is an enchantment. Sometimes the trees of that grove are seen, and sometimes they are not seen, and they are not always in the same place and part of Roke Island. It is said that the trees of the grove themselves are wise, It is said that the master patterner learns his supreme magery there within the grove, and if ever the trees should die, so shall his wisdom die. And in those days the waters will rise and drown the islands of Earthsea, which Segoi raised from the deeps in the time before myth, all the lands where men and dragons dwell. But all this is hearsay. Wizards will not speak of it. The months went by, and at last on a day of spring, Ged returned to the great house, and he had no idea what would be asked of him next. At the door that gives on the path across the fields to Roke Knoll, an old man met him, waiting for him in the doorway. At first Ged did not know him, and then putting his mind to it, recalled him as the one who had let him into the school on the day of his coming 5 years ago. The old man smiled, greeting him by name, and asked, "Do you know who I am?" Now Ged had thought before of how it was always said the 9 masters of Roke, although he knew only 8: Wind Key, Hand, Herbal, Chanter, Changer, Summoner, Namer, Patterner. It seemed that people spoke of the Archmage as the 9th. Yet when a new Archmage was chosen, 9 masters met to choose him. "I think you are the Master Doorkeeper," said Ged. "I am. Ged, you won entrance to Roke by saying your name. Now you may win your freedom of it by saying mine." So said the old man, smiling, and waited. Ged stood dumb. He knew 1,000 ways and crafts and means for finding out names of things and of men, of course. Such craft was a part of everything he had learned at Roke, for without it there could be little useful magic done. But to find out the name of a mage and master was another matter. A mage's name is better hidden than a herring in the sea, better guarded than a dragon's den. A prying charm will be met with a stronger charm. Subtle devices will fail. Devious inquiries will be deviously thwarted, and force will be turned ruinously back upon itself. "You keep a narrow door, master," said Ged at last. "I must sit out in the fields here, I think, and fast till I grow thin enough to slip through." "As long as you like," said the doorkeeper, smiling. So Ged went off a little way and sat down under an alder on the banks of the Thwilburn, letting his otak run down to play in the stream and hunt the muddy banks for creek crabs. Is that crawfish? The sun went down late and bright, for spring was well along. Lights of lantern and weir-light gleamed in the windows of the great house, and down the hill the streets of Thwiltown filled with darkness. Owls hooted over the roofs, and bats flitted in the dusk air above the stream, and still Ged sat thinking how he might, by force, ruse, or sorcery, learn the doorkeeper's name. The more he pondered, the less he saw. Among all the arts of witchcraft he had learned in these 5 years on Roke, any one that would serve to wrest such a secret from such a mage. He lay down in the field and slept under the stars with the otak nestling in his pocket. After the sun was up, he went, still fasting, to the door of the house and knocked. The doorkeeper opened. "Master," said Ged, "I cannot take your name from you, not being strong enough, and I cannot trick your name from you, not being wise enough. So I am content to stay here and learn or serve, whatever you will, unless by chance you will answer a question I have." "Ask it." "What is your name?" The doorkeeper smiled and said his name, and Ged, repeating it, entered for the last time into that house. When he left it again, he wore a heavy dark blue cloak, the gift of the township of Low Torning, whereto he was bound, for they wanted a wizard there. He carried also a staff of his own height, carved of yew wood, bronze shod. The doorkeeper bade him farewell, opening the back door of the great house for him, the door of horn and ivory, and he went down the streets of Thwill to a ship that waited for him on the bright water in the morning. Chapter 5, The Dragon of Pendor. West of Roke, in a crowd between the two great lands, Hosk and Ensmer, lie the 90 Isles. The nearest to Roke is Surd, and the farthest is Sepish, which lies almost in the Pelnish Sea, and whether the sum of them is 90 is a question never settled. For if you count only isles with freshwater springs, you might have 70, Well, if you count every rock, you might have 100 and still not be done. And then the tide would change. Narrow run the channels between the islets, and there the mild tides of the inmost sea, chafed and baffled, run high and fall low, so that where at high tide there might be 3 islands in one place, at low there might be 1. Hey.
Here's pickled beer.
Hey, cool. So Dave got some beer. He was telling, like, pickle beer or beer with pickle juice in it, or pickle flavored beer, or beer flavored with pickle salt is a thing around here. They were talking about it at the tavern when I was there, and I was like, "Are you people nuts?" But Dave was like, "No, that's a thing." Good Lord, that is just hideous. All right, I'm going to try to taste it twice because several people have told me they like that, but I'm not going to taste it twice right away. Good Lord and goddamn. No wonder he's swearing. Pickle beer, lemonade. Pickle flavored beer. Beer with pickle salt in it. Christ, that's awful. With beer, I don't, it's a thing that people like around here. Apparently it's very popular. I wouldn't believe it, but I heard it from different places. Like, I would actually think they were funning me. I would think somebody was making fun of me. To like that at all is not right. That is just hideous stuff. Hideous. That's hideous. Christ, what is the world coming to? What is this place I live in now? In the old continuity before 2020, nobody would have ever liked that. That wouldn't have even been a thing that somebody could make a thing of. That wouldn't have happened. Narrow run the channels between the islets, and there the mild tides of the inmost sea, chafed and baffled, run high and fall low, so that where at high tide there might be 3 islands in one place, at low there might be 1. Yet, for all that danger of the tide, every child who can walk can paddle, and has his little rowboat. Housewives row across the channel to take a cup of rush-wash tea with the neighbor. Peddlers call their wares in rhythm with the stroke of their oars. All roads there are salt water, blocked only by nets strung from house to house across the straits to catch the small fish called turbies, the oil of which is the wealth of the 90 Isles. I'm suddenly having a snot problem because of that beer, or whatever that is, whatever I just drank. That stuff that ain't right. That hideous, hideous stuff. Good Lord. There are few bridges and no great towns. Every islet is thick with farms and fishermen's houses, and there are gathered into townships each of 10 or 20 islets. One such was Low Turning, the westernmost, looking not on the inmost sea, but outward to empty ocean, that lonely corner of the archipelago where only Pendor lies, the dragon-spoiled isle, and beyond it the waters of the west reach, desolate. A house was ready there for the township's new wizard. Yes, Zoe? Yes? You want pickle beer? Is that what you need? Yes, Zoe. There aren't more treats. There's only like 2 left in the bag. And I'm not going to give you some of the soupy treats right now. Oh my God. I'm just not going to get to read tonight. There aren't enough treats. I can't give you more treats. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Zoe. I know it's terrible. There's the other. Pickle beer. Good Lord. Good Lord. There is a better world. There must be. I really did suddenly have a snot problem because of the pickled beer. Probably, I don't know if there was the pickle or the beer. I really don't. A house was ready there for the township's new wizard. It stood on a hill among green fields of barley, sheltered from the west wind by a grove of pendic trees that now were red with flowers. From the door one looked out on other thatched roofs and groves and gardens, and other islands with their roofs and fields and hills, and amongst them all the many bright winding channels of the sea. It was a poor house, windowless, with earthen floor, yet a better house than the one Ged was born in. The Islemen of Low Torning, standing in awe of the wizard from Roke, asked pardon for its humbleness. We have no stone to build with, said one. We are none of us rich, though none starve, said another. And a third, it will be dry at least, for I saw to the thatching myself, sir. To get it was as good as any palace. He thanked the leaders of the township frankly, so that the 18 of them went home, each in his own rowboat to his home isle, to tell the fishermen and housewives that the new wizard was a strange young grim fellow who spoke little, but he spoke fairly and without pride. There was little cause, perhaps, for pride in this first magistry of Ged's. Wizards trained on Roke went commonly to cities or castles to serve high lords who held them in high honor. These fishermen of Low Torning, in the usual way of things, would have had among them no more than a witch or a plain sorcerer. Zoe, I'm not going to give you treats because you're doing this. I'm going to throw water on you. Stop. Zoe, stop. No, no, no. Come on. Stop being bad. I don't have treats to give you just because you're being bad. Fucking cats. Hey, Gandalf. Check my PayPal. Well, I will interrupt to do that if we're talking about food money for, I mean, I'm not gonna buy beer that isn't pickled beer. Thank you, Gandalf. Thank you. I was worried, actually. I'm really, I don't, I really don't like the actually subsisting on grocery money coming from the channel. I should make a point of pushing for money all the time, but I don't, because it really is for my health, my mental health. You guys are the only family I've got. I don't have anyone else to read to. Though Dave likes it when I read. It'd be really weird if I just read to him. Thank you, Gandalf. You're awesome. These fishermen of Low Torning, in the usual way of things, would have had among them no more than a witch or a plain sorcerer, to charm the fishing nets and sing over new boats and cure beasts and men of their ailments. But in late years the old dragon of Pendor had spawned 9 dragons, it was said, now laired in the ruined towers of the sea lords of Pendor, dragging their scaled bellies up and down the marble stairs and through the broken doorways there. Wanting food on that dead isle, they would be flying forth some year when they were grown and hunger came upon them. Already a flight of 4 had been seen over the southwest shores of Hosk, not alighting, but spying out the sheepfolds, barns, and villages. The hunger of a dragon is slow to wake, but hard to sate. So the Islemen of Low Torning had sent to Roke begging for a wizard to protect their folk from what boded over the western horizon, and the Archmage had judged their fear well-founded. There's no comfort in this place, the Archmage had said to Ged on the day he made him wizard. No fame, no wealth, maybe no risk. Will you go? I will go, Ged had replied, not from obedience only. I will go, Ged had replied, not from obedience only. Since the night on Roke Knoll, his desire had turned as much against fame and display as once it had been set on them. Always now he doubted his strength and dreaded the trial of his power. Yet also the talk of dragons drew him with a great curiosity. In God there have been no dragons for many 100 years, and no dragon would ever fly within scent or sight or spell of Roke, so that there also they are matter of tale and song only, things sung of but not seen. Ged had learned all he could of dragons at the school, but it is one thing to read about dragons and another to meet them. The chance lay bright before him, and heartily he answered, I will go. The Archmage Genscher had nodded his head, but his look was somber. Tell me, he said at last, do you fear to leave Roke, or are you eager to be gone? Both, my lord. Again Genscher nodded. I do not know if I do right to send you from your safety here, he said very low. Oh, I did the voice wrong. I cannot see your way. It is all in darkness. And there is a power in the north, something that would destroy you. But what it is and where, whether in your past or on your forward way, I cannot tell. It is all shadowed. When the men from Low Torning came here, I thought at once of you, for it seemed a safe place and out of the way where you might have time to gather your strength. But I do not know if any place is safe for you or where your way goes. I do not want to send you out into the dark. It seemed a bright enough place to get. Yeah.
You'll borrow your ladder.
Yeah. Buddy.
Find mine.
Yeah, I got two. Hold on. I'll just give you one. Hold on. Listen, Zoe. Well, I mean, I didn't want Zoe to run around if you need to keep track of her.
Get your paw out, buddy.
Yeah, I'll let her out when I come out when I'm done with the stream.
It's a strong cat.
Yeah, she really wants to get out and hang out. She's been bugging me to let her out. Yes, sir.
This one might get some power after a while.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'm going to come out and hang out after the stream. Yes, sir. Where did I just put the book? Zoe really wants to go hang out. I think I've explained, like, I'm being a little bit of a control freak, but I don't want Dave to have to deal with her being underfoot either. Yeah. I like that better, but then it's not on the book. Hold on, let's put the lamp back there. Sorry, guys. It's a little better. It's a little hot spotty. It's a little hot on my face. I don't know if he was shouting for me or what. I don't know. Like, yeah, when I'm done with this stream, I get to go hang out with Dave and drink beer, but, like, I'm not going to drink any more of this. It's really... That stuff's really bad, man. That stuff's really bad. In fact, I'm gonna have some Kratom just to clean the taste of that out of my mouth. Like, I'm literally...
Hey, I found it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Zoe. I mean, I keep forgetting that I can just let the cats out. I just want to be able to keep track of where they are. I don't want Dave to have to keep track of them. Yeah, I'm just fussing too much. Where is the crate? Honest to God. Why would somebody ever suggest somebody try such a thing? Pickled beer. Good fucking God. That's the beer equivalent of, like, those candies in the Harry Potter stories that, like, some of them just have terrible flavors. Just terrible, terrible flavors. And you're like, why would anybody ever? That powder I just took, some of that doesn't taste good. It tastes like grass flavored dirt with a bitter aftertaste. Something like insects or deceit. The taste of deceit itself, a bitter, subtle taste. Christ. But it's better than pickled beer. It's better than pickled beer. It seemed a bright enough place to get at first, the house under the flowering trees. There he lived, and watched the western sky often, and kept his wizard's ear tuned for the sound of scaly wings. But no dragon came. Ged fished from his jetty and tended his garden patch. He spent whole days pondering a page or a line or a word in the lore books he had brought from Roke, sitting out in the summer air under the pendic trees, while the otak slept beside him or went hunting mice in the forests of grass and daisies. And he served the people of Low Torning as heel-all and weather worker whenever they asked him. It did not enter his head that a wizard might be ashamed to perform such simple crafts, for he had been a witch child among poorer folk than these. They, however, asked little of him, holding him in awe, partly because he was a wizard from the Isle of the Wise, and partly on account of his silence and his scarred face. There was that about him, young as he was, that made men uneasy with him. Yet he found a friend, a boatmaker who dwelt on the next islet eastward. His name was Petchvari. They had met first on his jetty, where Ged stopped to watch him stepping the mast of a little catboat. He had looked up at the wizard with a grin and said, "Here's a month's work nearly finished. I guess you might have done it in a minute with a word, eh, sir?" "I might," said Ged, "but it would likely sink the next minute unless I kept the spells up. But if you like—" He stopped. "Well, sir. Well, that is a lovely little craft. She needs nothing. But if you like, I could set a binding spell on her to help keep her sound, or a finding spell to help bring her home from the sea." He spoke hesitantly, not wanting to offend the craftsman, but Petchvari's face shone. Petchvari's face shone. "The little boat's for my son, sir, and if you would lay such charms on her, it would be a mighty kindness and a friendly act." And he climbed up onto the jetty to take Ged's hand then and there and thank him. After that, they came to work together often, Ged interweaving his spellcrafts with Petchvari's handiwork on the boats he built or repaired, and in return learning from Petchvari how a boat was built and also how a boat was handled without aid of magic, for this skill of plain sailing had been somewhat scanted on Roke. Oh my God, Zoe. There shouldn't have even been a space for her to get into where she is. Oh my God. She knows when I stop to pay attention, and she starts scribbling and scrambling around as soon as I look over to the book. I wish you could see the space that Zoe is making this noise in. There shouldn't be room for anything bigger than a spider in there. Zoe, how in God's name? There you are. What are you even doing, you monster? She's gonna unplug the Wi-Fi. She's behind the Wi-Fi now. For God's sake. I hope you're satisfied, you little monster. Otak. Shia Otak. Actually, Piewacket is my Otak. Zoe is her cat. Piewacket does not control her very well or much at all. I have no control over any of this. I'm not responsible for any of this. Well, I am responsible, but I lack control. Where was I? Right. For this skill of plain sailing had been somewhat scanted on Roke. Often Ged and Petchvari and his little son Ioeth went out into the channels and lagoons, sailing or rowing one boat or another, till Ged was a fair sailor, and the friendship between him and Petchvari was a settled thing. Along in late autumn, the boatmaker's son fell sick. The mother sent for the witch woman of Tesk Isle, who was a good hand at healing, and all seemed well for a day or two. Then, in the middle of a stormy night, came Petchfairy hammering at Ged's door, begging him to come save the child. Ged ran down to the boat with him, and they rowed in all haste through dark and rain to the boatmaker's house. There Ged saw the child on his pallet bed, and the mother crouching silent beside him, and the witch woman making a smoke of coralie root and singing the Nagian chant, which was the best healing she had. But she whispered to Ged, Lord Wizard, I think this fever is the red fever, and the child will die of it tonight. When Ged knelt and put his hands on the child, he thought the same, and he drew back a moment. In the latter months of his own long sickness, the master herbal had taught him much of the healer's lore, and the first lesson and the last of all that lore was this: heal the wound and cure the illness, but let the dying spirit go. The mother saw his movement and the meaning of it, and cried out aloud in despair. Petchfairy stooped down by her, saying, The Lord Sparrowhawk will save him, wife. No need to cry. He's here now. He can do it. Hearing the mother's wail, and seeing the trust Petchfairy had in him, Ged did not know how he could disappoint them. He mistrusted his own judgment, and thought perhaps the child might be saved if the fever could be brought down. He said, I'll do my best. Zoe, stop being bad. Come on. Stop. 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 Zoe just intentionally dumped a bunch of desk stuff off on the guitar. I actually swatted her just now, lightly, with my hand. At least she didn't knock the beer over. Actually, yeah, that could have been worse. Like, all right, I'll put the beer out of the way now. The pickle beer. At least the cats making noise are inside. There's one in the yard making a ruckus is part of what's going on here. Piewacket has given up on trying to get outside, but I don't want them running loose in the trailer, in part because there's cats yowling in the yard. So, like, yeah, I'm going to go hang out with Dave while he drinks beer in a little while and let the cats out then. And she wants more treats. Like, she thinks I've got a big bag of cat treats that I'm holding out on. I do, you know what? The feral cats are trying to get under your trailer. Yeah, they're. You know what? I can't do this. But I think the goopy stuff that I have for treats here, I don't think Zoe likes it. I think only Piewacket likes this stuff. Where's that box? And I'm pretty sure it gives her diarrhea. I'm not 100% sure. I stopped giving them these. Oh, they're right here. I stopped giving them this stuff because So it's this Frisky's little this stuff. Yeah, Piewacket loves this stuff. Yeah, now you're gonna yell, Zoe. You little monster. You're a little monster. Now I've got cat food on my hand. But then it's -5 tonight. Yeah, you should let them inside, Gandalf, if you can. I mean, there shouldn't be cats outside. Do you mean 5 below centigrade? You mean 5 below centigrade. You don't mean 5 below actual Fahrenheit 0. American 0. You don't mean American 0. Because they'd be quiet. They'd be awfully quiet. Really, -5 Fahrenheit. I hope they'll be okay. Hello, Venom Avenge. How are you? Wait, Venkman? You see Venkman? Am I just not seeing all my comments? Oh my god. I'm gonna freak out. Moderation activity community. It does this sometimes. It doesn't show me all the comments. Community moderation, is that it? Channel dashboard settings. It's not general. Oh my god. I can't tell, but if okay. I can't see here it is. Okay. There we go. Christ. Why is it doing this? It wasn't doing this to me before. Okay. I don't see. No, but thanks for calling my attention to that. I have only reset the chat a couple of times in here. I mean, the chat isn't even very active in here. I don't know why it's even offering me the option of having it set to top chat. Like, there's like 3 people. It's really annoying. Like, they're like, like, there's like 3 people, and all of them will be like actively participating in chat, and one of them will be hidden from me. It's so weird. Like, it auto sets to top every time on mobile. Yeah, I'm used to that, but it wasn't doing it before in here, or at least, I don't know, maybe I just didn't notice it. I don't know, it's really annoying. Yes, for apps used by billions, they're shambles. I mean, that's like, yeah, it might be that they've just updated what the default settings are, but it might be that I'm just noticing. I mean, there are more people in my chat than that. Well, there aren't actually. I was going to say than there used to be, but not. There's more people. There's more views. There's more people watching. There's more people listening, but there aren't more people in chat generally. Hey, some dude. Hearing the mother's wail and seeing the trust Petchvari had in him, Ged did not know how he could disappoint them. He mistrusted his own judgment, and thought perhaps the child might be saved if the fever could be brought down. He said, "I'll do my best, Petchvari." Hey, also very ordinary. Nice to see you. Hey, some dude. Did I say that? Did I say hello, some dude? Did I say hello to Venkman? I really don't know. I'm sorry. Sorry. He set to bathing the little boy with cold rainwater that they brought new fallen from out of doors, and he began to say one of the spells of fever stay. The spell took no hold and made no whole, and suddenly he thought the child was dying in his arms. Summoning his power all at once and with no thought for himself, he sent his spirit out after the child's spirit to bring it back home. He called the child's name, Ioeth. Thinking some faint answer came in his inward hearing, he pursued, calling once more. Then he saw the little boy running fast and far ahead of him down a dark slope, the side of some vast hill. There was no sound. The stars above the hill were no stars his eyes had ever seen. Yet he knew the constellations by name, the sheaf, the door, the one who turns, the tree. They were those stars that do not set, that are not paled by the coming of any day. He had followed the dying child too far. Knowing this, he found himself alone on the dark hillside. It was hard to turn back, very hard. He turned slowly. Slowly, he set one foot forward to climb back up the hill, and then the other. Step by step he went, each step willed, and each step was harder than the last. The stars did not move. No wind blew over the dry, steep ground. In all the vast kingdom of the darkness, only he moved, slowly, climbing. He came to the top of the hill and saw the low wall of stones there, but across the wall, facing him, there was a shadow. The shadow did not have the shape of man or beast. It was shapeless, scarcely to be seen, but it whispered at him, though there were no words in its whispering, and it reached out towards him. And it stood on the side of the living, and he on the side of the dead. Either he must go down the hill into the desert lands and lightless cities of the dead, or he must step across the wall back into life, where the formless evil thing waited for him. His spirit staff was in his hand, and he raised it high. With that motion, strength came into him. As he made to leap the low wall of stone straight at the shadow, the staff burned suddenly white, a blinding light in that dim place. He leaped, felt himself fall, and saw no more. Now what Petchvari and his wife and the witch saw was this. The young wizard had stopped midway in his spell and held the child a while motionless. Then he had laid little Ioweth gently down on the pallet and had risen and stood silent, staff in hand. All at once he raised the staff high, and it blazed with white fire as if he held the lightning bolt in his grip. And all the household things in the hut leaped out strange and vivid in that momentary fire. When their eyes were clear from the dazzlement, they saw the young man lying huddled forward on the earthen floor beside the pallet where the child lay dead. To Petchvari, it seemed that the wizard also was dead. His wife wept, but he was utterly bewildered. But the witch had some hearsay knowledge concerning magery and the ways a true wizard may go. And she saw to it that Ged, cold and lifeless as he lay, was not treated as a dead man, but as one sick or tranced. He was carried home, and an old woman was left to watch and see whether he slept to wake or slept forever. The little otak was hiding in the rafters of the house as it did when strangers entered. There it stayed while the rain beat on the walls and the fire sank down and the night wearing slowly along left the old woman nodding beside the hearth pit. Then the otak crept down and came to Ged where he lay stretched stiff and still upon the bed. It began to lick his hands and wrists long and patiently with its dry leaf brown tongue. How Miyazaki is that? There must be an otak in the Earthsea movie they made. The Miyazaki didn't work on it, but there's a Studio Ghibli Earthsea movie. It's one of their B movies. It's pretty good. It's not based on this novel. I don't know if there's any otaks in it. It began to lick his hands and wrists long and patiently with its dry leaf brown tongue. Crouching beside his head, it licked his temple, his scarred cheek, and softly his closed eyes. You know what? I'm picturing Pikachu, actually, just like brown instead of yellow. The otak is in my head canon. Is Pikachu, but realistic. And very slowly, under that soft touch, Ged roused. He woke, not knowing where he had been or where he was or what was the faint gray light in the air about him, which was the light of dawn coming to the world. Then the otak curled up near his shoulder as usual and went to sleep. Later, when Ged thought back upon that night, he knew that had none touched him when he lay thus spirit lost, had none called him back in some way, he might have been lost for good. It was only the dumb, instinctive wisdom of the beast who licks his hurt companion to comfort him. And yet in that wisdom, Ged saw something akin to his own power, something that went as deep as wizardry. From that time forth, he believed that the wise man is one who never sets himself apart from other living things, whether they have speech or not. And in later years, he strove long to learn what can be learned in silence from the eyes of animals, the flight of birds, the great slow gestures of trees. Yeah, I've been thinking about reading Tolkien out loud. If these Wizard of Earthsea streams keep building from night to night, so the numbers are better. I really want to read Lord of the Rings all the way through out loud. I've only read the first half of it out loud, I think twice. It always gets interrupted. Dave just put on music, something interesting that I don't know what it is. Yeah, I have Lord of the Rings here also is the other thing. Like I actually have a copy of it here. I bought it at the same time I bought this. So they're great. And they're Lord of the Rings is also it's extra suitable for reading out loud in part because it's worth interrupting and annotating. There's a lot of things that aren't great about Lord of the Rings. It's not like a perfect novel. It's not unapproachably like there's some jeering from the gallery involved in appreciating Lord of the Rings, right? Um, the Book of Lost Tales. That's the first one of the collections that Christopher Tolkien published, right? From the stuff they made the Silmarillion from, right? That's book one of that series. I know there's two later Tolkien, like bottom of the barrel releases that are novels that were marketed as novels, standalone novels in that set of Christopher Tolkien books. If anyone doesn't know, the Silmarillion was written. It's Tolkien wrote a whole bunch of Lord of the Rings related background materials, and they were assembled into a sort of Old Testament by Christopher Tolkien working with Guy Gavriel Kay. Uh, Tolkien himself didn't. He wrote everything in the Silmarillion, but putting that book together was not his work. The Silmarillion, I'm curious because I haven't been able to get really, like, there's parts of the Silmarillion I like, but I haven't read more than 200 pages of it total. It's just daunting, and it's really various. The different parts of it are really different. Yeah, that might be fun. That might be fun. Definitely some of it would be fun. My only reason not to do Tolkien is he's so British. That's like I have read Tolkien out loud. Lord of the Rings, I can do it. I'm not perfect for it because I'm not British. I'm good at the epic fantasy voice. I'm working on it for this. It's not my I'm enjoying reading this out loud, but it's not dead center of my talents. um, I think Dave's playing the Stooges and singing along with it is what's going on. Maybe it's not the Stooges. I don't know what that is. Dave's taste is more metal than mine. Where was I? Where was I? Right. He had now made, unscathed for the first time, that crossing over and return which only a wizard can make with open eyes, and which not the greatest mage can make without risk. But he had returned to a grief and a fear. The grief was for his friend Petchfairy, the fear was for himself. He knew now why the Archmage had feared to send him forth, and what had darkened and clouded even the mage's foreseeing of his future. For it was darkness itself that had awaited him, the unnamed thing, the being that did not belong in the world, the shadow he had loosed or made. In spirit, at the boundary wall between death and life, it had waited for him these long years. It had found him there at last. It would be on his track now, seeking to draw near to him, to take his strength into itself and suck up his life and clothe itself in his flesh. Soon after, he dreamed of the thing like a bear with no head or face. He thought it went fumbling about the walls of the house, searching for the door. Such a dream he had not dreamed since the healing of the wounds the thing had given him. When he woke, he was weak and cold, and the scars on his face and shoulder drew and ached. Now began a bad time. When he dreamed of the shadow or so much as thought of it, he felt always that same cold dread. Sense and power drained out of him, leaving him stupid and astray. He raged at his cowardice, but that did no good. He sought for some protection, but there was none. The thing was not flesh, not alive, not spirit, unnamed, having no being but what he himself had given it, a terrible power outside the laws of the sunlit world. All he knew of it was that it was drawn to him and would try to work its will through him, being his creature. But in what form it could come, having no real form of its own as yet, and how it would come, and when it would come, this he did not know. He set up what barriers of sorcery he could about his house and about the isle where he lived. Such spell walls must be ever renewed, and soon he saw that if he spent all his strength on these defenses, he would be of no use to the islanders. What could he do between two enemies if a dragon came from Pendor? Again he dreamed, but this time in the dream the shadow was inside his house, beside the door, reaching out to him through the darkness and whispering words he did not understand. He woke in terror and sent the weir light flaming through the air, lighting every corner of the little house till he saw no shadow anywhere. Then he put wood on the coals of his fire pit and sat in the firelight, hearing the autumn wind fingering at the thatched roof and whining in the great bare trees above, and he pondered long. An old anger had awakened in his heart. He would not suffer this helpless waiting, this sitting trapped on a little island muttering useless spells of lock and ward. Yet he could not simply flee the trap. To do so would be to break his trust with the islanders and to leave them to the imminent dragon undefended. There was but one way to take. The next morning he went down among the fishermen in the principal moorage of Low Torning, and finding the head isleman there, said to him, "I must leave this place. I am in danger, and I put you in danger. I must go. Therefore I ask your leave to go out and do away with the dragons on Pendor, so that my task for you will be finished and I may leave freely. Or if I fail, I should fail also when they come here, and that is better known now than later." I really want to interrupt what I'm doing to find out what he's listening to, but I'll ask later. Might be Blood Rock. We were talking about Blood Rock. We were listening to them the other night. Dave's strong on heavy music from the mid 70s, like proto metal kind of stuff. Like from that period in that corner, like I'm really into Hawkwind and the Stooges. But I tend to be weak on what they call hard rock after about 71 or 72. Or if I fail, I should fail also when they come here, and that is better known now than later. The Isleman stared at him, all drop-jawed. "Lord Sparrowhawk," he said, "there are 9 dragons out there. 8 are still young, they say, but the old one. I tell you, I must go from here. I ask your leave to rid you of the dragon peril first, if I can do so." "As you will, sir," the Isleman said gloomily. All that listened there thought this a folly or a crazy courage in their young wizard, and with sullen faces they saw him go, expecting no news of him again. Some hinted that he meant merely to sail back by husk to the inmost sea, leaving them in the lurch. Others, among them Petchfairy, held that he had gone mad and sought death. For 4 generations of men, all ships had set their course to keep far from the shores of Pendor Island. No mage had ever come to do combat with the dragon there, for the island was on no traveled sea road, and its lords had been pirates, slave-takers, war-makers, hated by all that dwelt in the southwest parts of Earthsea. For this reason, none had sought to revenge the Lord of Pendor, after the dragon came suddenly out of the west upon him and his men where they sat feasting in the tower, and smothered them with the flames of his mouth, and drove all the townsfolk screaming into the sea. Unavenged, Pendor had been left to the dragon, with all its bones and towers and jewels stolen from long-dead princes of the coasts of Palm and Husk. All this Ged knew well, and more, for ever since he came to Low Torning he had held in mind and pondered over all he had ever learned of dragons. As he guided his small boat westward, not rowing now, nor using the seaman's skill Petchfairy had taught him, but sailing wizardly, with the mage wind in his sail and a spell set on prow and keel to keep them true. He watched to see the dead isle rise on the rim of the sea. Speed he wanted, and therefore used the mage wind, for he feared what was behind him more than what was before him. But as the day passed, his impatience turned from fear to a kind of glad fierceness. At least he sought this danger of his own will, and the nearer he came to it, the more sure he was that for this time at least, for this hour, perhaps before his death, he was free. The shadow dared not follow him into a dragon's jaws. The waves ran white-tipped on the gray sea, and gray clouds streamed overhead on the north wind. He went west with the quick mage wind in his sail, and came in sight of the rocks of Pendor, the still streets of the town, and the gutted falling towers. This is the kind of book that has maps occasionally, by the way. I haven't been showing them. It's probably worth buying a nice hardback. And in fact, this is definitely a copyright controlled text. Let me say again, you guys should buy a copy. You should buy a nice copy, not a beat up old cast off middle school copy like this. And I should invite you again to support the channel, paypal.me/Roganautica, or donate to the dono button. Thank you. Thank you very much in advance. And thank you for your kindness and attention now. At the entrance of the harbor, a shallow crescent bay, he let the wind spell drop and stilled his little boat. So it might, you know what? I'm gonna blow my nose first. Because I don't want to have to stop to do it once this gets going. This is going to be good, right? He's going to fuck up the dragon. It's going to be good, right? I'm excited. I haven't read this book in so long, I don't remember how this part goes, but this is great. Dave's making it sound like as much fun to hang out with him right now as me. I gotta set him up with his own live streams. I think he'd be a lot more mercurial than me about it. Really being assiduous about being here at specific times is such a core skill for doing this. Thanks for being here with me, guys. All right. At the entrance of the harbor, a shallow crescent bay, he let the wind spell drop and stilled his little boat so it lay rocking on the waves. Then he summoned the dragon. "Usurper of Pendor, come defend your hoard." His voice fell short in the sound of breakers beating on the ashen shores, but dragons have keen ears. Presently one flitted up from some roofless ruin of the town like a vast black bat, thin-winged and spiny-backed, and circling into the north wind came flying towards Ged. His heart swelled at the sight of the creature that was a myth to his people, and he laughed and shouted, "Go tell the Old One to come, you windworm." For this was one of the young dragons, spawned there years ago by a she-dragon from the West Reach, who had set her clutch of great leathern eggs, as they say she-dragons will, in some sunny broken room of the tower, and had flown away again, leaving the old dragon of Pendor to watch the young when they crawled like baneful lizards from the shell. The young dragon made no answer. He was not large of his kind, maybe the length of a 40-oared ship, and was worm-thin for all the reach of his black membranous wings. He had not got his growth yet, nor his voice, nor any dragon cunning. Straight at Ged in the small rocking boat he came, opening his long toothed jaws as he slid down arrowy from the air, so that all Ged had to do was bind his wings and limbs stiff with one sharp spell and send him thus hurtling aside into the sea like a stone falling, and the gray sea closed over him. Two dragons like the first rose up from the base of the highest tower. Even as the first one, they came driving straight at Ged, and even so he caught both, hurled both down, and drowned them. And he had not yet lifted up his wizard's staff. Now, after a little time, there came three against him from the island. One of these was much greater, and fire spewed curling from its jaws. Two came flying at him, rattling their wings, but the big one came circling from behind, very swift, to burn him in his boat with its breath of fire. No binding spell would catch all three, because two came from north and one from south. In the instant that he saw this, Ged worked a spell of changing, and between one breath and the next flew up from his boat in dragon form. Spreading broad wings and reaching talons out, he met the two head-on, withering them with fire, and then turned to the third, who was larger than he and armed also with fire. On the wind over the gray waves they doubled, snapped, swooped, lunged, till smoke rolled about them red lit by the glare of their fiery mouths. Ged flew suddenly upward, and the other pursued below him. In mid-flight, the dragon Ged raised wings, stopped and stooped as the hawk stoops, talons outstretched downward, striking and bearing the other down by neck and flank. The black wings flurried, and black dragon blood dropped in thick drops into the sea. The Pendor dragon tore free and flew low and lamely to the island where it hid, crawling into some well or cavern in the ruined town. Whatever he's listening to is really good. At once Ged took his form and place again on the boat, for it was most perilous to keep that dragon shape longer than need demanded. His hands were black with the scalding worm blood, and he was scorched about the head with fire, but this was no matter now. He waited only till he had his breath back and then called, 6 I have seen, 5 slain, 9 are told of. Come out, worms. No creature moved nor voice spoke for a long while on the island, but only the waves beat loudly on the shore. Then Ged was aware that the highest tower slowly changed its shape, bulging out on one side as if it grew an arm. He feared dragon magic, for old dragons are very powerful and guileful in a sorcery like and unlike the sorcery of men. But a moment more, and he saw this was no trick of the dragon, but of his own eyes. What he had taken for a part of the tower was the shoulder of the dragon of Pendor as he uncurled his bulk and lifted himself slowly up. When he was all afoot, his scaled head, spike-crowned and triple-tongued, rose higher than the broken tower's height, and his taloned forefeet rested on the rubble of the town below. His scales were gray-black, catching the daylight like broken stone. Lean as a hound he was, and huge as a hill. Ged stared in awe. There was no song or tale could prepare the mind for this sight. Almost he stared into the dragon's eyes and was caught, for one cannot look into a dragon's eyes. He glanced away from the oily green gaze that watched him, and held up before him his staff that looked now like a splinter, like a twig. 8 sons I had, little wizard, said the gray, dry voice of the dragon. 5 died, 1 dies. Enough. You will not win my hoard by killing them. I do not want your hoard. The yellow smoke hissed from the dragon's nostrils. That was his laughter. Would you not like to come ashore and look at it, little wizard? It is worth looking at. No, dragon. The kinship of dragons is with wind and fire, and they do not fight willingly over the sea. That had been Ged's advantage so far, and he kept it. But the strip of seawater between him and the great gray talons did not seem much of an advantage anymore. It was hard not to look into the green, watching eyes. You are a very young wizard, the dragon said. I did not know men came so young into their power. He spoke, as did Ged, in the old speech, for that is the tongue of dragons still. Although the use of the old speech binds a man to truth, this is not so with dragons. It is their own language, and they can lie in it, twisting the true words to false ends, catching the unwary hearer in a maze of mirror words, each of which reflects the truth and none of which leads anywhere. So Ged had been warned often, and when the dragon spoke, he listened with an untrustful ear, all his doubts ready. But the words seemed plain and clear. Is it to ask my help that you have come here, little wizard? No, dragon. Yet I could help you. You will need help soon against that which hunts you in the dark. Ged stood dumb. What is it that hunts you? Name it to me. If I could name it, Ged stopped himself. Yellow smoke curled above the dragon's long head from the nostrils that were 2 round pits of fire. If you could name it, you could master it, maybe, little wizard. Maybe I could tell you its name when I see it close by, and it will come close if you wait about my isle. It will come wherever you come. If you do not want it to come close, you must run and keep running from it. And yet it will follow you. Would you like to know its name?" Ged stood silent again. How the dragon knew of the shadow he had loosed he could not guess, nor how it might know the shadow's name. The archmage had said that the shadow had no name. Yet dragons have their own wisdom, and they are an older race than man. Few men can guess what a dragon knows and how he knows it, and those few are the dragon lords. To Ged, only one thing was sure, that though the dragon might well be speaking truth, though he might indeed be able to tell Ged the nature and name of the shadow thing and so give him power over it, even so, even if he spoke truth, he did so wholly for his own ends. "It is very seldom," the young man said at last, "that dragons ask to do men favors." "But it is very common," said the dragon, "for cats to play with mice before they kill them." "But I did not come here to play or to be played with. I came to strike a bargain with you." Like a sword in sharpness, but 5 times the length of any sword, the point of the dragon's tail arched up scorpion-wise over his mailed back above the tower. Dryly he spoke, "I strike no bargains, I take. What have you to offer that I cannot take from you when I like?" "Safety, your safety. Swear that you will never fly eastward of Pendor, and I will swear to leave you unharmed." A grating sound came from the dragon's throat like the noise of an avalanche, far off stones falling about among mountains. Fire danced along his 3-forked tongue. He raised himself up higher, looming over the ruins. "You offer me safety. You threaten me with what?" "With your name, Yavad." Ged's voice shook as he spoke the name, yet he spoke it clear and loud. At the sound of it, the old dragon held still, utterly still. A minute went by, and another, and then Ged, standing there in his rocking chip of a boat, smiled. He had staked this venture and his life on a guess drawn from old histories of dragon lore learned on Roke. A guess that this dragon of Pendor was the same that had spoiled the west of Oskill in the days of Elfaran and Mored, and had been driven from Oskill by a wizard, Elt, wise in names. The guess had held. "We are matched, Yavod. You have the strength. I have your name. Will you bargain?" Still the dragon made no reply. Many years had the dragon sprawled on the island where golden breastplates and emeralds lay scattered among dust and bricks and bones. He had watched his black lizard brood play among crumbling houses and try their wings from the cliffs. He had slept long in the sun, unwaked by voice or sail. He had grown old. It was hard now to stir, to face this mage lad, this frail enemy, at the sight of whose staff Yavad, the old dragon, winced. "You may choose 9 stones from my hoard," he said at last, his voice hissing and whining in his long jaws. "The best, take your choice, then go." "I do not want your stones, Yavad." "Where is men's greed gone? Men loved bright stones in the old days in the north. I know what it is you want, wizard. I, too, can offer you safety, for I know what can save you. I know what alone can save you. There is a horror follows you. I will tell you its name." Ged's heart leaped in him, and he clutched his staff, standing as still as the dragon stood. He fought for a moment with sudden, startling hope. It was not his own life that he bargained for. One mastery, and only one, could he hold over the dragon. He set hope aside and did what he must do. "That is not what I ask for, Yavad." When he spoke the dragon's name, it was as if he held the huge being on a fine, thin leash, tightening it on his throat. He could feel the ancient malice and experience of men in the dragon's gaze that rested on him. He could see the steel talons, each as long as a man's forearm, and the stone-hard hide, and the withering fire that lurked in the dragon's throat. And yet always the leash tightened. He spoke again. "Yavad, swear by your name that you and your sons will never come to the archipelago." Flames broke suddenly bright and loud from the dragon's jaws, and he said, "I swear it by my name." Silence lay over the isle then, and Yvonne lowered his great head. When he raised it again and looked, the wizard was gone, and the sail of the boat was a white fleck on the waves eastward, heading towards the fat, bejeweled islands of the inner seas. Then, in rage, the old dragon of Pendor rose up, breaking the tower with the writhing of his body and beating his wings that spanned the whole width of the ruined town. But his oath held him, and he did not fly, then or ever, to the archipelago. All right, that's the end of the chapter. This book's cool. This is a cool book. I like this book. Thanks for being here, guys. Yeah, Lord of the Rings, I mean, there's a couple of reasons not to read Lord of the Rings. There are other readers who've done Lord of the Rings. There's probably other readers who've done all that Tolkien. Now, being able to interrupt with astute and studied and sometimes negative commentary, because, like I said, I think part of the trick to appreciating the magic of Lord of the Rings by Tolkien is understanding that he didn't intend it to be the greatest novel ever written. He wasn't trying to do that. He wasn't even trying to write a great novel in any traditional sense. Yeah, it's really cool, man. So it feels like it must have a 5-act structure, and that was the end of Act 2. How much longer is this book? That was about 10 pages more than half. So it's the second of 4 acts, basically. I don't remember the rest of this book. I clean don't remember it. I remember that it ends a little bit like Frankenstein, that he and the shadow there's a pursuit out to the edge of the world. Because the known world is the archipelago, the islands. Earthsea is a group of islands. There's no larger continent in these stories. There's only the one continent. It's an archipelago. She handles dragons better than, like, I don't know. I wonder, like, the fandom for the genre of fiction wasn't deep and broad enough for people to have asked her the really trenchant questions here when she published this. Like, I'm assuming, without looking it up, that this is her first Earthsea story, this novel from 1968. Because it's 1968, clearly it's a response to Lord of the Rings being a sudden breakout hit when it was reprinted in paperback in the mid-60s. Because you probably know, but like I've been saying in these streams, Tolkien wrote those novels in the 40s. They had a small cult following, and I don't think they were ever reprinted in paperback or in the United States before Ballantine brought them out with a big fanfare in the mid-60s. They promoted them to bookstores in big cities, and it took off. So epic fantasy for adults being a genre you could market and make money doing so started about when she probably started writing this. And there were a couple of other big hits at that time that made science fiction viable also. Stranger in a Strange Land, Dune. But particularly fantasy for adults, this specific kind of thing that Tolkien and Robert E. Howard, this novel, like there was only a thin trickle of it before that. And related adult fantasy, like any kind of fairy tale for adults, what the whole genre is now called often urban fantasy or dark fantasy. Hey, Justo Dean. Ender's Game would be fun to read. That's another one I'd love to write a movie of. It's such a shame that the movie they did make of Ender's Game was super sharp, except they fucked up the script on the writing front for the gaming element. Like, you can't make a movie of Ender's Game and not kill it on the gaming element. Like, you can't just screw up how the video games work. Like, that's actually the heart of the matter. Like, you can't just make it a movie about actors and, like, How are you, Justodine? Uh, so yeah, Orson Scott Card also is a huge fan of William Slater, the young adult science fiction author I often talk about in here. I've written one movie based on one of his books, and would like to write one based on his other book, Interstellar Pig. The one I've written a script of, though, is called The Green Futures of Tycho. And when I was hanging out with Bill Slater, like I wrote that movie in the early '90s with Jeremy, and we couldn't get it going. I didn't meet Bill at that time, but later in the early zeros, when I moved back to Massachusetts, because my health collapsed, and so I was living in my mom's basement, so I could work and spend all my money on medical stuff. Um, like literally living in my mom's basement. But I was in Worcester. Bill Slater lived in Boston. Uh, so I started hanging out with him like socially. Uh, and he asked his agent, "What's going on with Tycho? Does anybody?" Because this guy I'm hanging out with wrote this really good script on it based on it a while back, and he said the people who had been optioning the movie rights to the Green Futures of Tycho had recently commissioned a screenplay from Orson Scott Card, and I was like, oh, I mean, I don't know what screenwriting Card has done, and maybe there was a technical, like, he's a great writer, but I don't know about a screenwriter. Like, that's a different thing. Being able to write technically, like, clean screenplay you can break down and shoot is a different thing. And often, really good prose writers think they can write screenplay, and their agents present them as being able to write screenplay, and they need to be rewritten to be shot. But also, it might have just been they couldn't pull it together. In any case, I was like, well, they don't need my script if they've got Orson Scott Card on the payroll. And Bill was like, I really wanted them to use your script. It was one of the highest compliments anyone ever paid my writing. I was like, Bill, man, Orson Scott Card's he's a badass. Like, you don't, like, I would not be the senior man at that writer's table, like, by any, like, thank you for your vote of confidence, though. I mean, I guess I'm a dialogue guy. I guess Orson Scott Card's not a dialogue guy the way I was. He's alive and well, right? Orson Scott Card grumbling about politics and being a Mormon or something. I know we're not supposed to like Orson Scott Card. I don't remember what he said to get himself canceled. Something, he was too conservative. I know when you look into it, it's a little bit like J.K. Rowling. You look into it and you're like, is this really, you guys want to cancel him over this? Really? Like, mostly, it seems like it's mostly because he's a Mormon. If anyone doesn't know, Orson Scott Card is a super Mormon who wrote Ender's Game. Um, In fact, his one horror novel that didn't take off is about Mormons. Like, it's very tensively about Mormons and Mormon culture. I've tried to read it when it came out. I couldn't get into it. And Ender's Game also has a bunch of interesting sequels that are just nowhere near as good. It's like Dune that way. Like, there's sequels to get into. I think I've met one person who's really into the sequels to Ender's Game. But Ender's Game is, when I worked at a bookstore, I don't think I realized how truly great Ender's Game was until I worked at a bookstore, and it was I found myself recommending it so many times, like just recommending it often in multiple contexts. But one of them was there was somebody's seventh or eighth grade reading list, some school in the neighborhood where I worked at Tatnick Bookseller in Worcester. Uh, One of the schools had some kind of outside reading project where kids had to pick a genre book. Like, it had to be, like, for a marketing category, it had to be horror, science fiction, fantasy, maybe romance. I don't know, but it had to be a marketed genre. Um, Ender's Shadow was engaging. I only read the first one, Speaker of the Dead. Is that what it was called? Uh, Now that I'm saying it, he he was definitely influenced by, in his development of Ender's character, by Le Guin's Sparrowhawk, or at least they're both influenced by the same like the idea of a young genius who goes off like a firework and then is racked with guilt and remorse in later years and retiring in his power and majesty. The the general sternly, grimly weeping to himself in darkness, or the on the Isle of Elba, uh, or Mark Hamill, the aging Jedi, just waiting to be tapped on the shoulder at the end of one of the failed Star Wars sequels. Like that, I started to say it was influenced by this, but in the middle of my sentence, I got tangled up because I'm thinking there's a primary source for this. That's archetypal on a level there's something I'm not thinking over that I haven't read. That's deep, like Bible mythology deep, back of that character's journey. Though, of course, it happens in reality and history too. So there doesn't need to be a literary antecedent, I guess. I'm sure there is. I mean, there must be. All right, guys, I'm gonna call it. It's 12:17. I'm gonna eat some ramen noodles and call it a night. And yeah, I got to get up early in the morning with Dave to go to the hospital. Um, he gets more chemo tomorrow. They're telling him his cancer is cured, but they're still giving him chemo. So they're telling him the tumor is gone. They did the imaging tests last time, the same day as the chemo. I think he's getting drunk on beer tonight and yelling at the trailer, like you guys can hear. Like I need to get up early, but I also want to make sure he's good. I'm gonna hang out with him for a while. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Like I said, yeah, I'm gonna try to do it a stream from T-Bone's on my glad. I'm so glad I said something because I got to charge the phone now. Let me remember to do that. And I will see you guys tomorrow. I'll definitely be here for a reading stream at the end of the day, no matter what else I do. Like I'm really into the book. Like I'm really into the book. It's a cool book. I like it. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks for being here.